It's December. For some people, it's performance review season. For someone else, it's that time of the year when you accidentally start auditing your whole life. Like, what did I actually do in 2025? And because it's 2025, that question comes with a bonus feature: AI. New tools every day, new must learn workflows, and new hot takes telling you you're either ahead or irrelevant. If that's making you feel vaguely behind or vaguely anxious, good news, you're not broken. The incentives are. So here's the thing: you open a self assessment form, and surprise, there is a new section called AI integration and implementation. Or maybe nobody gave you a form, but you're still trying to explain your value in the AI era, either because you're looking for a job or you're just trying to improve yourself. While someone with much less experience than you is proudly putting on their 2025 achievement list prompt engineering or vibe coding experiment. Are AI natives real, or should that change who gets hired, promoted, or taken seriously? Because right now, a lot of companies are acting like the answer is yes. And we should probably check whether that is a fact or not before we decide to reorganize an entire workforce around the vibes. Hey, I'm Jane. I study the gap between what's being sold about AI and what's actually happening. And yes, reality is usually what press releases forgets to mention. There is a narrative floating around, like job posts, LinkedIn hot takes, executive commentary, hinting that young workers are AI natives, they grew up with tech, they'll lead the way. And that's not subtle. For example, Cloudflare CEO says that he plans to hire over thousands of interns in 2026, which is nearly like 1,000% of the interns they used to hire, arguing that a 50-year-old CEOs like himself aren't going to be the one that teach companies how to take advantage of AI. Or Nokia's CEO, in his latest interview, saying he had AI conversations with a early career talent in their early 20s who began university when ChatGPT launched and themselves benefited a lot from that conversation. And there's this article on Fortune with this headline that is not subtle at all, saying baby boomers are making millennials their successors for CEO jobs because they are done with AI. Anyways, the supporting logics that you will see a lot is basically young workers are using generative AI in schools, so they must be better at it. Are we now making promotion decisions based on who opens ChatGPT more often? Cool, that is very rigorous. Look, I'm not here to start a generational war, but the frequency of tool use is not really a good proxy for capability. For example, just think about my godson who can spend 6 hours straight on TikTok every day. But I'm not going to make him a head of marketing just because he's so used to using TikTok. Am I? I'm not here to dunk at young workers. I made videos talk about what kind of paradox that they are currently in. So sorry if you're Gen Z, but this is not here to discredit your experience and in your studies. I'm here to stop companies from confusing tool use with good judgment. Because if you zoom out, the real question isn't about who use AI, but it's who produces better work with it and who can tell when it's going wrong. And here's why that distinction really matters. Business leaders are signaling really hard that they are choosing AI skills over experience. One headline stat saying 71% of business leaders are saying they rather hire someone with AI skill than someone with experience. That brief quietly turns into policy, and policy turns into hiring and promotional decision. I believe we really need something that is sturdier than vibes. So here's what we're going to do today, using evidence that actually exists to test those assumptions. First, Do digital natives really have a measurable advantage with workplace technology? Second, in real tasks like writing, coding, creating, who would benefit more from AI assistance and why? Third, what exactly is experience in an AI workflow? And how do you measure it without worshiping years on ACV? Because AI isn't a magical skill generator, I believe it's a multiplier. So, only thing that really matters is what are you multiplying? If you like evidence over vibes, subscribe. I'm here pulling AI claims back down to earth. Now, claim number one, digital natives are better at AI. The digital native assumption actually has been studied. And surprise, surprise, it doesn't hold up. For example, this LSE Business Review analysis found that there is little evidence of so-called tech native holds more positive attitudes toward workplace technology than older professionals, nor that growing up with technology makes some use workplace technology more productively. Actually, even better is that in a 2025 workplace technology survey found that 28% of Gen Z workers feels overlooked and unsupported when new technology is introduced compared to only 22% of the baby boomers. So young plus grew up online doesn't automatically means skilled plus confident in enterprise systems. Consumer app fluency, like using TikTok more often, is really not the same as professional judgment, which brings us to the parts that everyone tries to skip. When people use AI to do actual work, who performs better? The twist here is actually people who look slower on the surface often produce better AI assistant work because the real advantage isn't AI fluency, but judgment. Let's start with a clean writing experiment. A study invited 150 people and split them into groups. Everyone had the same task. Write a solid argument about the pros and the cons of democracy. There are four groups. One group wrote without AI. One could use ChatGPT freely. One has to use ChatGPT with rigorous structure. And one was entirely done by ChatGPT. One of the headline findings. Older participants consistently wrote higher quality arguments. The researchers attributed it to cognitive maturity. Basically, better self-regulation, less distracted by AI suggestions. Basically, they didn't treat the models like authority figure. They treated it like a tool that needs supervision. But the most useful part isn't even age, it's how people use AI. With experience, deliberate, structured interaction, improved arguments actually has a much higher quality that is like roughly between 15 and 30% of increase compared to just a random chat with an AI model. So the skill is never uses AI, but uses AI deliberately and then evaluates it ruthlessly. Now, here is a counter argument, especially if you work in a big enterprise, you probably heard of it at some point, is that, sure, but young workers ship faster, especially in coding, because there is a Microsoft and Accenture study, which is often cited, showing that junior developers actually see bigger productivity gains from AI coding assistance than senior developers do. More pull requests, more tasks completed, basically faster shipping. However, there are some caveats. First, this study comes from organizations that profit from AI adoptions. Microsoft sells Copilot, Accenture sells implementation. That doesn't automatically make the findings false. It just means that you should read it like you're reading a restaurant review written by the chef's mom. Second, and this is a big one because they only measure speed and volume. What they miss entirely is actually something really fundamental to engineering practice: code quality. Now, here is a Stanford research. they filled the gap by testing developers on security related tasks and basically their code quality, see if the code they generated has any bugs or security loopholes. They grouped the developers into two. Half used AI assistants, the other half didn't. The AI assisted group made significant more mistakes. So when you ever heard of 40% of productivity boost when people are selling these kind of AI tools, ask this one question, because this is the only thing that matters. Productivity of what? Now, let's zoom into the human side, because this is where experience actually shows up. A 2025 survey described a mental model split. Experienced developers tend to see AI like a junior colleague, useful but needs oversight, whereas less experienced developers tend to see AI like a teacher, an authority figure. When you treat AI as your teacher, you defer. But when you treat AI as your intern, you will review whatever output from AI. And this kind of output review is where your judgment lives. Now, let me ground this with a tiny case that captures the whole dynamic. A CTO in my network once asked his intern, "Why did you code this way?" The intern replied, "I don't know. Copilot asked me to." People outsource judgment to machines because it sounds confident, and the confidence is emotionally persuasive, even when it's wrong. Now, the last defense of the AI native story is usually fine. Maybe seniors judge better, but juniors bring fresh perspectives, and that's where innovation comes from. Well, sometimes, but fresh perspective can also be not knowing what's already been tested. And when it comes to creative work, experience changes what AI is good for. A September 2025 study splits designers into novice and experienced professionals. Same creative task, same AI tools, same time frame. Again, AI made novice feel dramatically more support. But when researchers measured novelty, quality, refinement, the gap between novice and experienced designer didn't shrink because of AI. It actually widened. Novice tended to use AI to generate ideas, whereas experienced designer used AI to refine and polish the ideas that they already had. And this fits a broader pattern. AI is strong at incremental creativity, variations on existing patterns, but it's weak at radical novelty, which means experience actually matters a lot. Because experienced people can tell the difference between an idea is actually new and an idea that's just new to you. So when people say that we should hire AI natives, what they often mean is we should hire people who are more comfortable producing output with AI and also ask for lower salary. Let's put that aside first. Output here is no longer a scarce resource in the AI era, but judgment is. So here is a more honest model for how experience works in an AI workflow. AI multiplies what you already have. 2 years of knowledge times AI equals to wrong but fluent. Whereas 15 years of knowledge times AI equals to knows which 80% to throw away. Now that is your value. And not that I use AI, but it's I can evaluate AI output in seconds because I have seen this run in millions of ways before. Now, maybe you are in your company's review season, or you're simply taking stock of 2025. This is the parts that you can use immediately. Instead of trying to compete on AI adoption, translate your experience into receipts. Like, ask yourself, what do I know that take years to learn that I now use in 10 seconds to evaluate AI output? Or what did I teach my team this year that they couldn't have learned from AI tool? Or what did we avoid a costly mistakes because something that I've seen before? Or What context did I add that made AI output useful for our situation? Or where did I recognize that an AI powered solution wasn't right for the problem we're facing? And if you're feeling that particular end of the year anxious and imposter syndrome with an AI filter, ask this. Am I underselling my experience just because I don't have AI in my job title? Or did I defer to AI output when I should have just trusted my own judgment? Or what would I be irreplaceable for even if we bought every AI tools on earth? Because the world is currently obsessed with the decorations, tools, prompting tricks, AI native workflows. But the foundation is still the foundation. Domain knowledge, pattern recognition, and judgment. You can't buy any of those in a weekend workshop. You build it in a boring way by making mistakes, learning, and not repeating them. One last research note here, because I want to be fair. There's an EY and Microsoft report surveying Gen Z on AI literacy. It found that Gen Z is decent at identifying which products use AI, weaker at prompts, and the weakest at evaluating whether AI output is accurate. Like only 1/3 of them ended up recognize that AI systems can invent facts. But that doesn't compare Gen Z to older groups. There's no control group, online only sample. So you cannot use a report like this to prove that old workers are better. And that's fine because it's never about kids these days. Every generation gets that treatment, and it's usually lazy thinking. And we don't do that on this channel, do we? This is about a different mistakes that the company, especially C-level, sometimes say undercounting experience because it's harder to measure who used the tool. It's also, you guys are more expensive. Experience compounded. And in AI era, that compounding isn't a liability. It's the things that make AI actually useful. So if you're looking back on 2025 and feeling that you're behind because there is a new model every day, breathe. You don't need to catch every tool. You need to keep sharpening the parts of you that tools can't replace, your judgment. So yes, learn the tools, absolutely. Don't try to catch every one of them. Don't let anyone convince you the tool is the skill. Your ability to look at an output and in a second know whether it's gold or garbage. That's your value. And if someone tells you your experience doesn't matter anymore because of AI, it's not a futuristic insight. It's a stingy one, and it's an old mistake wearing the new hoodie. Now, subscribe if you want the next one, because the next up, I'm going into how to position disadvantage in 2026. And if you want the full written breakdown, the studies, the numbers, and the exact framing that you can steal for your review season, the full article is linked in the description. And that's also where the members support my work. All right. Thanks, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.